Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 189 of the J Situation Podcast. I'm recording this on November 28th, 2023. How are all you wonderful folks doing today? How was your Thanksgiving? Yeah, was it good? If you were able to enjoy the holiday, I hope it was great. We had a great one here. Saw a lot of family, ate wonderful food, counted our blessings. It's really just a wonderful time of year. It really is. Really great time. And again, super thankful for all of you listening to the podcast, supporting the research effort, and all the great things that make all of this pretty much feel like teamwork to me. It's pretty cool. It makes it feel like teamwork all the time, which is really great. We have some neat things to speak about with you today. First up, a brand new sound signature review white paper. That's right, the SilencerCo Velos LBP on the 5.56 MK18. This is a member-funded research effort that is published today concurrently with this podcast episode. That's right. So we'll dig into that introductory discussion today. I know this is a long-awaited publication for many of you, so I think that'll be cool. Also today, listener questions are back. That's right. I'm sure you folks remember, but we finished the 5th solicitation recently. The good news is that the 6th solicitation is now here. We got a ton of questions on Monday of this week, and we will be answering these gradually on the show. Okay, so buckle up. We'll have some fun with that. Then I have just another topic prepared, just to give you guys just a more formal thank you. All the supporters of the effort that make this happen. I think it's a really big deal. Okay. All right. And now a quick word about the sponsors of the podcast. The J Situation Podcast is proudly sponsored by Legion Athletics. Nothing you do, exercise, sports, anything is worth doing without consistency. You have to do it all the time if you want to be good at it. And Legion Athletics can help. They got whey protein, pre-workout, post-workout. They have a lot of the stuff you need. Okay. Use code word PEW Science to save 20% off your first order, and keep using the code for double loyalty points. You'll end up getting a net 10% off everything going forward using that code, legionathletics.com. Okay, go do that. Top Gun Range out of Houston sponsors the podcast. If you're in the Houston area, or even if you're just visiting, go check them out. They have a really awesome indoor range. You can rent pistols and rifles and shotguns, and now you can even rent silencers. They have the largest firearm rental fleet in the whole state of Texas. Go check them out. TopGunRange.com, Instagram at Top Gun Range. Go bug them, okay? We're sponsored by High-End Armament Technologies out of Oklahoma. Heat. They are a crazy dealer with crazy stuff at crazy prices. No, in all seriousness, if you're looking for something really hard to find, Robert and his crew at High-End Armament Technologies is going to find it for you, okay? Night vision, thermal optics, infrared sighting systems, silencers, machine guns. Just really the hard-to-find stuff, that's where I go for that, okay? Check them out at highendarms.com, at High-End Arms on Instagram and Facebook and all that good stuff, okay? I think they can help you. The podcast is also sponsored by Silencer Shop. You can use their kiosk, do your fingerprints and photos electronically, and in turn, you cut down on errors, you simplify your silencer purchasing process, you get a money-back guarantee. It's great. No transfer fees, no paperwork errors, just you and your silencer with no drama. It truly is silencer ownership simplified. And most of all, and most importantly, of all the sponsors of this podcast, it's brought to you by the PEW Science Laboratory. That's right. I am the technical director of the lab. In the interest of public education, the lab sponsors this podcast and runs a public research effort, which continues to push the silencer industry forward one test at a time. Go to pewscience.com for the suppression rating. It's most simplest and accurate hearing safe rating for suppressed small arms based on true human inner ear response of the entire gunshot from before combustion takes place all the way until all the combustion is gone. True mill standard testing in accordance with the silencer sound standard. 7 sections. They're all on pewscience.com. It's the most in-depth and accurate silencer data analysis in the entire world. All available to the public 24/7. That's right. And you can support this podcast. You can support PEW Science. You can support the lab. Support all the public testing we do, including the SilencerCo research that you're about to see right now today, by joining with a membership at pewscience.com. You can even donate to the effort if you want. We have a donate function on the website. If you don't want to join, you can just donate and throw us a bone. That's cool too. It's whatever you want. And if you don't want to spend any money, that's fine too. You can spread the word. Give us a good 5-star rating on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast, and normalize the use of suppressed small arms. It'll be awesome. Okay. All right. 3 topics. Topic 1, sound signature review 6134. Is that right? Is it 6134? Yeah, we're on 6134. The SilencerCo Velos LBP on the 5.56 MK18. Okay, this is going to be the introductory discussion for this long-awaited white paper. It's published today with this podcast. Huge thanks to PEW Science members for making this research possible. It's going to be great. Topic 2, listener questions are back. That's right. Time for the 6th solicitation, fresh off the presses. We just gathered all the questions earlier this week on Monday. So yesterday for me, 2 days ago for you listening. So we'll kick off answering some from the new batch right now. And don't worry if you didn't get your question in this time. There'll be more opportunities. That's right. And topic 3, thank you all for your support. Consumers, dealers, distributors, manufacturers, you are all making this happen. It's been a great year, and it's not even over yet. That's right. The state of suppressed small arms research is in your debt. Okay. And so I don't have my time shown. There it is. Okay. We'll move into topic 1 at a time of 5 minutes. Nope. Scratch that. Time of 6 minutes and 4 seconds. Okay. Very good. Topic 1. Sound Signature Review 6134. SilencerCo. Man, it's been a minute for them, huh? SilencerCo Velos LBP on the 5.56 MK18. Introductory discussion. This white paper is hot. No, yeah, we just published it with this podcast. If you're like, one of those time travelers and listening to this before it's released, just go back to bed, okay? When you wake up, it'll be here. And boy, howdy, was this a long time coming. Big thanks to PEW Science, the PEW Science member who loaned this silencer to us for testing. He shall remain nameless. Nonetheless, this was a very valuable loan because a ton of people have been asking about this silencer. There also are some silencers that are asked about more than others. I know some of you request all kinds of weird stuff to be tested, and we'll get to it, but this is one of the ones that, we kind of had to test this one. SilencerCo does have quite a few very prolific silencers in the market. They do. We've done some other ones from them with member funding as well, right? We did what did we do? We did the Omega 300, we did the Harvester, the Omega 9K, the Saker 5.56. Yeah, so... And just like the Saker 5.56, this Velos was tested with the direct thread MAD mount. That's right. So that gives you a really great comparison point to see how the legacy SilencerCo rifle silencer technology compares with this updated generation in which they paid a lot of attention to gross flow rate. Not only in the early time internal blast impulse accumulation, what we define as the alpha parameter, but also in the later time externally measured impulse accumulation quantified by the PEW Science Omega metric, right? So folks that are really deep into this research will see that the Velos actually possesses relatively low alpha and omega. And the way they do it in this silencer is relatively simple. There aren't a lot of complexities here, and that's actually one of the interesting takeaways from this research. So, this is actually a really valuable research study for the pedigree, I think. Sure, you get the 10.3 inch Mark 18 answer for the silencer. Yes, that is very nice. That's a good answer to get. You have that data point now. But perhaps more importantly, we get to study how this type of silencer technology behaves on this barrel length, okay? And I'm here to tell you there are elements of a lot of different silencers that are used in the Velos, okay? And I bet you there are a lot of people out there that have wondered, what if, with a lot of the stuff you see in the Velos. And this study is great because it's going to it's directly going to answer a lot of those what if questions, I think. I think it really is. And I think one of the themes you're going to continue to see with silencer research in this pedigree going forward is hybrid silencer designs and how those designs deal with suppression performance and back pressure, and which of the designs behave most efficiently in different regimes. And a secondary thing folks will start to think about is how each technology starts to deal with sound signature in places other than the free field. Like what happens when you change environments and which technologies do better in certain environments. I think it's pretty interesting. It's a really interesting research we can get into. And actually, this actually brings me to another point. There are actually two nuances I think people should really start thinking about when they look at silencer performance quantified by the PEW Science suppression rating. When you really start to use the suppression rating, I think there's two nuances you really need to really focus on. The first is going to be, what is the differential between muzzle and ear ratings on the system? And how is that going to influence not only hazards to the shooter and bystanders, like you understand, but the perception to both groups? Okay? I think the more people pay attention to the muzzle and ear ratings, the more they're going to be happy with their expectations matching reality when they finally go to shoot the silencer they've been hemming and hawing over, or whatever the word is. You really have to look at those two numbers. And then the second nuance, I think, how does actual waveform behavior, that is, how do the actual external gas dynamics of each system behave in areas other than the free field? And are there clues in the presented data that will allow you to better predict the behavior outside the free field in those different environments? Okay, like can you take a low omega silencer indoors and get the same results as a high omega silencer indoors if their alpha state is similar? And what does that even mean? Okay, these are very powerful questions, and it's really good food for thought. And I think it's really great to think about this, because I think we're scratching the surface of this. I've seen a lot of people comment online, and I have spoken with some people personally that have shot this Velos, and they like it. They like the way it performs. When you qualitatively, when you look at the suppression rating at the muzzle and the ear, the Mark 18, I think you'll see why. I do think you'll see why. Okay. And I'll say another thing, just so you know, and I know you're going to ask this. I know you are. Yes, we also tested this on 14.5-inch mid. And yes, my friends, you will also get that data and analysis. You will. Okay, you will. Again, member funded. That's another member funded test. We spent a lot of member funding on this Velos, dude. Trust. Okay. Yeah. The largest suppressed small arms research effort in the world, and we still run things grassroots. Isn't that cool? When it's a prolific system, I think it's important. So here we are. And I think this fits in really nicely with the current research progression. I think it's really good timing. I think it helps frame context of a lot of different systems. And I think in the white paper, we really tried to help with that, to kind of give a good technology background and kind of frame this appropriately and contextually. I think context is very important. I've said this before, I'll say it again, but I do think context is one of the most powerful features of the Silencer Sound Standard research pedigree, because it's all contextual. It's very the metrics we use are so powerful. All the technologies are on display. There's just a lot to learn. And I think that's really cool, okay? So what we'll do, I'll leave you with that intro. And just so you know, like, I realize I haven't even told you. Yeah, so people who don't know what the SilencerCo Velos is, it's 3D printed. The main body is in Canel, and then they welded heat-treated stainless steel on both ends. Just for the threaded portions, it's just a way for them to probably deal with manufacturing a little easier, and repairs a little easier. And it takes their Charlie pattern mounts like the Saker did. It is the Velos LBP, which stands for low back pressure. It's vented. It has an annulus. We'll talk technically next week, okay? It's here to compete with all the Huxworks stuff. That's why it exists. Okay? SilencerCo didn't tell me that. I haven't spoken with SilencerCo at all about this silencer. They have no idea that this article is being published right now. I'm sure I'll get a call, but that's okay because I'd love to talk with them about it, but they're busy. So, this is member funded. This has nothing to do with SilencerCo. So I hope they found the research informative, and I hope all of you do too. And like I said, we'll with all the different quote unquote high flow rate, low back pressure silencers on the market, it's a great time to add another one to the pedigree, and I'm sure there will be a lot of discussion, and we will talk about it in depth next week. Okay, so enjoy it. Whenever I release these publications on the same day as a podcast, I like to give you about a week to chew on it, look at it, study it. We'll talk about the nitty gritty on the next episode. Sound good? Okay. Cool. It'll be good. Okay, let's move into topic 2 at a time of 16 minutes and 4 seconds. I did that perfectly, so there's exactly 10 minutes in the first topic. He's crazy. Topic 2, listener questions are back. They are. Listener questions are back. And we are in the 6th solicitation, and they're fresh off the presses. It's kind of crazy. They weren't gone for very long. And might I remind you, if you didn't get your question in, that's okay. Oh, don't worry. There'll be other chances. And by the way, if you DM'd me or emailed me because you couldn't fit your question in the panel, I don't usually allow that, but some of you did. I just want you to know I saved them. You got it in. Okay, it was within the deadline. I accepted it as acceptable. I just want you to know I did not ignore you. It's there. I got it confirmed. Okay, so you got in by the hair of your chinny chin chin, as they say. Okay, so don't worry. We actually it hasn't been that long since we hit this series. We finished the 5th solicitation in episode 181. I don't remember. I don't remember. I'll tell you right now how many questions there were. So for those of you who don't know, this is a recurring segment on the podcast. So we've answered a total of 414 questions on this podcast, and we have a record of all of them. We had 123 in the last solicitation, and so we're starting round 6, and we'll start with the 415th question this episode, and that's really cool. And if you want to go back and listen to other listener question episodes, if you go to pewscience.com/podcast, there are metadata tags at the bottom of each episode, and you can and there will be listener question metadata tag on this one. If you click it, it'll pull up all the listener question episodes on the website, and then you can go wild, as they say. Okay, and you know what I will say, I was looking at some of the questions you guys asked as I was cataloging some of them, as I transcribing them into the spreadsheet. And first of all, I can tell you guys asked a lot of freaking questions. So this solicitation is going to be packed. Pretty stoked about it. Some of the questions are really great. I really love doing these, and I know you guys like it too. So without further ado, let's kick things off right now. Pull up a spreadsheet here in a second. Okay, so in typical fashion, we're going to read them, and then we're going to answer them, and we'll do at least, let's see, we're going to hit a few today. Okay, I'm going to keep my timer handy so I don't go completely and utterly insane right now. Okay, rearrange my screen so I can see. Okay. Pretty good. I don't like that. 1 second. It's been a minute since I've done these, so I'm trying to pick a good layout. Okay. All right. So this is the beginning of solicitation 6, global question 415, subquestion 1. How important is flow rate for DRC reduction on a dedicated 308 bolt gun silencer, for example, Hyperion/surge bypass? Okay, Thank you for the question. I am going to repeat this question in a little bit of a different way to help the listeners understand what you're asking, sir. So this guy's saying, how important is flow rate for DRC reduction? So DRC, it's a damage risk criterion. One example of a DRC is the suppression rating. Okay? It's a damage risk criterion. It kind of tells you the higher the number, the less hearing damage risk potential there is. The lower the number, the higher hearing damage risk potential there is. Lower, bad. Higher, good for hearing damage, okay? So this guy's asking, well, how important is flow rate to help your suppression rating on a dedicated 308 bolt gun? Meaning, if you have a bolt gun and you have, high flow rate silencers on it, is that important to help your suppression rating? Because it's a bolt gun, it's not a semi-auto. And he gave an example, Hyperion, which is a CGS rifle silencer, and he said surge bypass, which is actually not a silencer, but a silencer technology of a different company, CAT. And I guess, so Hyperion, actually, you could call it Hyperion technology, and that's actually topical. So that's the question. And it's a great question. It's a complicated question, but I will do my best to answer it. Well, I would say, like a lot of great questions, the answer is it depends. Yeah, so the great thing about bolt guns, as you know, is that there is one major source of signature, right? And that is the silencer's distal orifice, right? The hole in the end. There are sources of noise that originate from the weapon itself. They're conducted through the metal body of the weapon, through the stock, through the barrel, through the silencer body, and you see that in all the measurements in the raw data at pewscience.com and the articles. But by and large, you are getting the majority of the signature from the projectile exiting and disturbing the air, and also the muzzle blast exiting as well, right? And the muzzle blast is, on a lot of these centerfire rifle systems, is much more significant than the air disturbance from the projectile, right? Despite people saying that, oh no, you can't suppress 5.56 because it has a sonic crack. It's like, guys, your muzzle blast is way more severe than the sonic crack from a small bullet. Relax. Yeah, they look at peak dB, they don't know what they're saying. So when you consider this situation with a bolt gun, having the one pressure origin or signature origin to atmosphere from the end cap that matters, and you ask, how important is the flow rate through the system to hazard reduction? You sort of need to think about environment first, right? So let's talk about free field. Out in the middle of a literal field, away from the trees, away from your truck, away from the buildings and the berms at your range, and just standing up and firing the weapon, okay? In that environment, all other things equal, if you restrict the flow of combustion gases from muzzle blast at the end of the silencer, it's likely that the DRC we use, which is the suppression rating, will increase proportionally to that restriction. It's likely. Now, there's some variance, right? There's some variance in the rate at which the gases exit. There's variance here because that rate is nonlinear, right? And there are frequency and phase components that end up really influencing the DRC too. They do influence it. They make a difference, right? And this is actually, it's funny, this is where the tone that people talk about sometimes also comes in. That also comes in here. That's real. And you can view, it's funny, you can actually view some of that in the member research supplements on pewscience.com. We have done this for years. We've shown why. We've shown physically why that's happening. So in that respect, the flow rate is somewhat a predictor of hazard. It is somewhat a predictor of hazard. but it's not always one-to-one, so you got to be careful. In fact, this is like, it's pretty easy to think about this. If it was this easy to map like flow rate to hazard, we would do a lot less work, right? We wouldn't even have to calculate the suppression rating. We could literally just compute the omega metric, and that's it. Anyone can compute the omega metric. It's open source. You could just do that, and then you have the answer for what's quietest, right? If that was true, but it's not. It doesn't work. Trust me, I've tried. If I could just do that, oh my God, we'd be done. We'd be done. Everyone would just already do that. But we don't, because it doesn't work like that, right? It doesn't work. So there's two. It's more complicated than that. So now you got to think about, what if you're not in the free field? What if you're not in the free field? What if you're hunting in a blind, or you're shooting near the ground, or near a car, or near a building, or an awning, or a berm, or whatever? Are the higher flow rate systems going to be louder? Near the surface, are they going to be louder? Can you draw that blanket conclusion? Potentially you can say yes, but again, it depends. Sometimes it's all about the type of flow rate increase you see, and this actually applies to what we spoke about earlier too. There is early time flow rate and late time flow rate. In a bolt gun, all we care about is late time flow rate within reason, and that's why I mentioned omega. Okay. But when you talk about high flow rate, and your question specifically mentioned Hyperion from CGS and the surge bypass technology from CAT, which means you would be talking about like the ODB or the WB silencers. In all three of these cases, Hyperion, ODB, WB, or Hyperion K too, whatever. In all those cases, although they're different silencers using different technologies, they have early time flow rate that may make you say, oh, these are high flow rate silencers. But the later time flow rate is slower, and their omega gets higher. Okay? So without getting into a lot of math right now on the podcast, I will tell you the shape of a blast wave can certainly influence how reflections occur and can potentially influence a DRC. You don't like the suppression rating? Fine. Just say DRC. It can potentially influence a DRC in a different way in certain environments because of that shape. This or that, that is an area of research we would like to tackle. I'll tell you that right now. I will say we, meaning the collective we, have already studied this in other regimes in other areas. This is not new. The silencer industry has no idea about this, but this is in blast effects research. This is extremely well studied, but no one's ever done it for what we're doing here. So we probably will, because then it would be good. So because your question here, again, how important is flow rate for hazard reduction if you're just using a silencer on a bolt gun? How important is flow rate for hazard reduction? It depends. It can be important. If the flow rate's really, really, really high, like too high, it's going to be really loud. So on a bolt gun, for hazard reduction, the maximum amount of hazard reduction in all environments, it could be that you want the lowest flow rate possible. That's not always true. It depends, but you understand why there's nuance here? If you told me, Jay, I have a mission, and this mission requires me to shoot from any environment possible, I have to have the absolute quietest system. for muzzle blast suppression on this cartridge, on this gun, no matter where I am, I have a choice between 3 silencers: high flow rate, medium flow rate, and low flow rate. Which one should I use? My lives are on the line. You have you have 10 seconds to decide. I'm going to tell you, pick the one that's most restrictive. Done. Because it's a bolt gun and it's in any area. Done. And I'd bet the farm on that. If I had no other information, it would gun to my head decision. You understand? And why would I do that? Because of physics, guys. But you understand why that would be a completely irresponsible answer if we had more time and more consideration for what exactly we're talking about and da-da-da-da. You see? So there's nuance to all of this. Just like I would never, ever recommend a silencer. That's not what we do. That's not what I do. I would also urge people not to put a gun to my head to make me answer questions, because that's violent. Okay. That's a very good question. I know I spent a lot of time on answering it, but I think it deserved it. Okay, 1 second. Okay. Let's move on to question 416, sub-question number 2 of the 6th solicitation. Oh man, it is difficult to say 6th solicitation. Tongue twister. Question 2. Where does the suppressor industry go next now that low back pressure suppressors are the norm? Okay, first of all, why are you saying suppressors and not silencers, sir? No, it's fine. They're interchangeable. It's fine. Let me repeat the question. Where does the silencer industry go next now that low back pressure silencers are the norm? This person is asking. Where do we go next? Because everyone's making these low back pressure silencers. It's a great question. I'd say that's a fair question. I'll answer this by saying low back pressure silencers are actually not the norm. And they're also not nearly mature enough in their technology to be the norm. And I would also say that people are still trying to figure out what that even means, dude. I would say I know who asked this question. You're an enthusiast. You're plugged in. You know more than a lot of people buying silencers. And you're making some assumptions here, okay? And they're not all correct. There are some companies that are pretty far ahead in the efficacy of their high flow rate systems. No question, right? And there are some that are doing things that are still pretty primitive, right? And there are folks in between those two groups, right? It's a spectrum. It's a spectrum, okay? It's a spectrum. I think that from what I'm seeing in our test results, the technologies out there and the newer silencer models being designed and released, some folks simply... Some folks just aren't doing anything new at all. And some folks have a really hard time with this, man. Some folks are just really not doing a good job. And I think that once people get a better handle on high flow rate silencer designs, and then they determine not only what that means, but also how those types of systems perform in different environments, I think you're going to see more sophisticated designs. And then they're going to use those more sophisticated designs to achieve performance that's actually possible. And that's cool. There are only a few companies I've seen so far that are really taking this concept in ways that can advance. And from what I've seen, some of the designs just aren't there yet. So I see these types of technologies as still maturing. Just because you call something low back pressure doesn't mean it's good or advanced. It could be a really inefficient design. So I think I'm gonna coin a phrase. I'm gonna say buzzword fatigue is probably already happening. And the cynicism from that fatigue, I think, is happening too. And I think the companies and the dealers and the salesmen, I think they better be careful, because once everyone says they have a low back pressure silencer, we're going to have a problem. right? Look what happened with signature. Look what happened with sound, with signature. Everyone has the quietest silencer, right? Everyone, right? Look what PEW Science had to do because of that. Look what we had to do because everyone kept saying they had the quietest silencer, and that's obviously false. But look what we had. Look at the effort we had to go through to show that that was impossible. It's crazy what we had to do. PEW Science is literally, it's nuts. This effort is nuts. So that's the first part of your question that I just addressed. Now, the other part of your question. Now, let's say more folks tackle this, right? Let's say more folks do it well. Assuming some do. One second. Assuming some can even do this. And I think there are a few that can. Assuming you can even do this right. Let's say more folks tackle this and people really refine the low back pressure designs further and it gets awesome. What's the next step? That's what you're asking. Where do you go? Where does the silencer industry go? I would say if you can make silencer systems light, quiet, durable, reduce operator hazard, do it in all environments, your next step is to get them on all weapons. And the next logical step to actually make that happen is to have more weapon system manufacturers make the silencers and the guns and make them so that they work together as a system. That's the next step. That's the next real step. Very few companies are doing that. Very few. That's the future, though. That's the future. And to be clear, just because you may see a company doing that right now does not mean they are doing it right. Okay? Just because someone does something first does not mean it's the best. We'll see what happens. One thing I'm pretty tired of seeing is silencer companies saying that their silencer does XYZ and it only does that on one weapon. Okay? So if that XYZ is true, either say the truth, sell it with the weapon, or stop saying it. Okay? And because bad information hurts everyone, and it actually hurts the entire industry. And I think that we're still fixing the issues that have plagued this industry and like for the past few decades, and it's not going to change overnight. So I do think this type of thought process helps. And so I think this is a thoughtful question. I appreciate the question. I think it's thoughtful. I think this type of dialogue helps. But man, I'm going to tell you right now, dude, like you got to remember, even the stuff that silencer companies are telling you, there's still so much BS that's driven by marketing and sales that I can't begin to tell you. It happens. I can't think of one company. I can't think of one silencer company that has a perfect track record of not misleading consumers. I can't think of one. All PEW Science clients included. And so I'm obviously not slamming them all, but I'm telling you it's hard. And if you have an honest to goodness, fully vetted, competent design engineer that knows everything about the product, they can still get something wrong and mislead somebody if they don't really understand it. Because what we're talking about is rocket science. And I don't care how many times people say that this isn't rocket science. It is. I'm sorry. And the more people try to make this easy, the more you're going to set yourself back. It's not easy. If it was easy, we'd be done. And we probably wouldn't even need this podcast, would we? Because it wouldn't be interesting. This is really hard. It's really hard to make good silencers that do what you want to do. If it were easy, everyone could do it. Somehow people ended up thinking it was easy, so everyone bought a lathe and put it in their garage, and now everyone has a silencer company. That doesn't mean they're good. Yes, I know people can copy things too. There's also that. All right, this is a dangerous question. This is a dangerous line of thought. Thank you for the question, sir. You're a gentleman and a scholar. I don't know where we go from here, man. Lasers, really. That's what we need, lasers. That's the answer to that question. That's a good question, though. It really is. Like, once you lick the low back pressure situation and you're done with that, what's the next step? I don't know. It's got to be weapon system integration. Because once you suppress sound and flash perfectly, and you have super high flow rate too, just the system. And you know what's really crazy about this whole thing? The system integration. The low back pressure is going to have to be directly related to that too. So it's a hand in hand thing. You actually let me back up and let me put an addendum to my answer to your question, sir, or ma'am. No, it's sir. An addendum to my answer to your question is, if low back pressure silencers were the norm, that would mean the weapon systems are already integrated with them. But they're not the norm. You know what they're the norm in? Marketing. Do not confuse the reality of technology with marketing. What people are telling you in marketing is that they all have low back pressure silencers. That doesn't make it reality. Because, again, some of them don't even know what that means. And it's not limited to amateurs that don't understand it. A lot of people that have been in the industry for a very long time still don't understand it. Again, if it was easy, everyone would do it. Question 417, subquestion 3. How do you prefer to use your Z8i on the fix for longer whitetail shots? Ballistic reticle or dope card? Oh, that's actually a good question. It's kind of a question I had to think about for myself. So this lady or gentleman is asking. I use a Swarovski Z8i scope. It's a 2 to 16? No, 2 to 18? No, I think it's 2 to 16. It's on my fix. Yeah, I use a Q-Fix 308 bolt gun to hunt deer. It's like my thing. It's really light. I like it. And the thing about this reticle on my Swaro scope, the glass is incredible. It doesn't have you know what? This is a little embarrassing, but off the top of my head, I can't remember if there's hash marks in this reticle. I don't think there are. It's a really good question. It's funny. I'm just gonna give you a bad answer. It's the truth. I swear I'm not being lazy with my answer to this question. But my answer is, I just guess. I couldn't tell you. I literally guess. I know that between 75 to 200 yards, a supersonic 150 grain 308 bullet out of a 16 to 20 inch barrel, it's going to impact a few inches up or down from 100 yard zero, right? If you zero your 308 bolt gun that's 16 inches or 20 inches long with 150 grain ammo or 149 grain M80 ball, if you zero your gun at 100 yards and you shoot it at 75 to 200 yards, anywhere in there, it's going to be a few inches up or down. Yeah, pretty much. Give or take, right? Okay. So, it's not that far off, right? Relax. This isn't like, I see some people obsess about this. It's so insane to me. Like how many things have people actually killed? That's what I want to know. So, if I'm way over 100 yards, I aim a little higher with 100 yards zero. If I'm way over 100 yards, I aim a little higher. If I'm closer than 100 yards, I aim a little bit lower. If I'm close to 100 yards, I just aim dead on, and I just assume it's going to hit the elevation that I hit. When I shoot a whitetail deer, 99.9% of the time, I am aiming for their heart, right behind the shoulder, okay? With a supersonic 308, if I am a little bit up or down on that, they're going to die. If you get nervous and you don't think you're going to hit that exact elevation, I have a secret for you. It's not going to be a secret after I say it right now, but here's a little secret, a little deer hunter secret for you. If you get nervous because you don't know your perfect range and you have a feeling you're going to go a little bit high or a little bit low on that shot right behind the shoulder, you're freaking out because you're new to this, little secret, go a little forward on their body, shoot them in the shoulder. Instead of going right behind the shoulder, shoot them right in the shoulder. Okay, do that. What are you going to do if you do that? Well, you're probably still going to blow out their heart, and they're going to immobilize them. Because what would happen if you had to run on 4 legs and someone shot you through your shoulder? You wouldn't be running. You'd be skidding on the ground. And that's exactly what a white-tailed deer does when you shoot them in the shoulder. Trust me, I've done it. Okay, so do that. They're going to die real quick. I've killed a lot of deer. A lot. And that's what I do. Now, I do use reticles. Look, I'm not a FUD. Like, I know I'm going to be accused, oh, he's a dumbass. No, I'm not stupid. I know how to calculate drop. Okay. But listen, I do use reticles on scopes that have it. I do. It just so happens my Swarovski doesn't have that function. I don't think it does. If it did, I'd remember, because I don't remember it having hash marks. I could go get it, but I don't want to get up right now. I don't think it has that. I think it has a red dot when I turn it on. Yeah, I don't think I have a little drop. I don't have any hash marks on the reticle. So yeah, it's a hunting scope, dude. I'm pretty certain this is how hunters generally aim. If I'm crazy, like maybe I just aim a little bit up or down, and I can see it in the, like, I know, like, I guess your question was, do you use a dope card? And I guess I do use a dope card in my brain. I don't write it down, but I have it in my head. I'm like, okay, again, 150 grain, 308. Now, if I'm shooting like way further away, like over 200 yards, something's gone horribly wrong. Why? Because I would never shoot a white-tailed deer that far away. Okay, no, let me say that again. Never say never. But where I hunt, okay, first of all, where I hunt, the way things are, it's unlikely. Second reason is I just don't. Now, I'm going to say something, it might not apply to you, but to me it does. It might be irresponsible, because at a further range like that, if you shoot an animal, yes, you have a higher probability of missing the vital zone. Or I should say, you have a higher probability of that animal running further, because your shot is maybe not going to be as good statistically. Now, you might be Annie Oakley, and you might have the best shot ever. And you know what? You might have a reticle with perfect little hash marks. You know, hey, maybe you're awesome at shooting. Cool. Except you're also human, and risk increases as you... risk of not immobilizing the animal increases with distance. Just like any shooting, right? Like, you get further away, it's harder. And news for you, you're not shooting steel, and you're not shooting paper. You're shooting an animal. So if you miss and hit part of the animal that doesn't kill him right away, that has way more consequences than missing the steel plate or pulling the shot and putting only your 3 shots out of the 10-shot group on Instagram. Instead it's literally life or death. So don't risk it. Be a responsible hunter. Know your capabilities. And if you're going to be shooting, between 75 and 400 yards with your 308 bolt gun, yeah, maybe you should actually have a dope card and a ballistic reticle. Absolutely. And sorry, I didn't mean to blow up on you, sir, ma'am. I think your question was good. You're asking me, well, how do you prefer to use it? If your deer's far away, what do you do? Ballistic reticle or dope card? Just short answer, dope card. It's in my head. Dope card. I just hold. I use holdovers. or hold unders. That's what I do. But you know what? You know, it's funny, and I'll answer this again for my my SCAR and my 14.5 5.56. They both have that Night Force Attacker 1-8. I never dial. I never ever dial with those attackers, those 1-8s. And why? Because the reticle has the little hash marks, and it's one of the best reticles of any scope ever, and that's actually why I bought the Attacker 1-8 for the reticle itself. I love it so much. That scope is just, well, it has the whole package, but like I guess I should say that's why I bought another one. Because once I bought the first one and put it on my SCAR, I was like, oh, I got to have another one of these. I love it. I'm actually waiting. I'm about to buy a third attacker, not a 1-8, but I think I'm pretty much sold on the attacker scopes. They just seem so high quality and they seem to work and they seem reliable. I think I'm going to buy another one, but it's not going to be 1-8. It's going to be one with higher mag, and I'm going to put it on either this other 5.56 gun I have, or on something else that I have. I want an attacker that's not a 1-8. I want like I don't know, one with more mag, but I'm waiting. I don't know if maybe they'll come out with a new thing, so I'm waiting until SHOT Show. I don't know. And if they don't come out with one at SHOT Show, I'll just buy one of the existing ones, like a 4-16. I don't know what I'm going to buy. Something like that. So I'm going to go see them at SHOT Show, see if I can like try them out in person. Maybe they'll have a bunch of different ones. I like to look through them. It'd be cool, right? Yeah. I hope that helps. Okay, let's move into question 418, sub-question 4. Is it possible that bolt gun performance doesn't scale with barrel length like gas gun? Okay, very good question, sir or ma'am. Let me repeat this for folks that might not understand what you're asking. What this gentleman is asking, he's asking does silencer suppression performance on a bolt gun not scale with barrel length like gas gun like silencer performance with a gas gun would? That's an interesting question. If you're only talking about muzzle suppression rating, the DRC at the muzzle, the damage risk criterion of the muzzle, the suppression rate of the muzzle, if you're only talking about the muzzle, there is no reason to expect it would scale any differently on bolt gun or gas gun, because the pressure origin is it's the end cap of the silencer, right? Now, because there's nothing, there isn't something inherent to the way a gas gun works that's going to really greatly influence the scaling. There are actually some little things here and there, but it's not a huge deal. Now, when you're talking about the shooter's ear suppression rating, though, guys, that feeds directly into the composite rating, just like the muzzle rating does, right? So you're definitely going to have different scaling on a gas gun than a bolt gun with that, because the ejection port blast is literally going to be driven by both the weapon system and the silencer flow rate and everything. So that's really going to depend on a lot of variables. So to expect the shooter's ear suppression rating and therefore the composite suppression rating to scale on a gas gun like it does on a bolt gun, no, absolutely not. You can't. Well, it could, but that would be coincidence. Can't, right? Don't think that. It won't work. I think you understand why, sir. But because remember, the muzzle rating will probably scale the same just because it is what it is. Here's another way to think about this. I like your question. It's a good question. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you an easy way to think about this. Time. How fast is stuff happening? Right? The muzzle suppression rating, man, there's a lot of stuff going on. And that ejection port blast, it is happening. And the action noise is happening. But at first, it's not. And the muzzle suppression rating is, there are some things at the muzzle that do get influenced from the gas gun, but it's gonna scale pretty well, dude. Now, if you shorten the barrel, if you go gas gun with like 4-inch to 7-inch 5.56, I don't even want to talk about that because there might be some other stuff happening, and I don't know. Then if you go 4-inch to 7-inch bolt gun with 5.56, I don't know. It'd be a good experiment, but I wouldn't worry too much about muzzle not scaling with like 16 to 10-inch versus 16 to 10-inch bolt versus 16 to 10-inch AR. Same cartridge, same silencer, should scale similarly. Now, different silencers could scale differently, but we already know that, and that wasn't your question. Okay? You asked about, is it possible bolt gun performance doesn't scale with barrel length like gas gun? And I would say that the answer is no. Okay. Good question, man. All right. Actually, that's good. We're about almost an hour in. That's perfect. I'm going to go ahead and highlight that row in our spreadsheet to make sure that we know that that was the last question we answered. I think we only answered, what did we answer, like 5 questions today? 4 questions. All right, but there were those were some in-depth questions. You know what's interesting? We're into the 4 questions in the 6th solicitation, and all the questions so far were like humdingers. They're all humdingers. Like, this is going to be great, guys. This is going to be like the populace is getting, you guys are getting more educated. You guys are learning so much. You've stuck with us for such a long time. We just answered the 418th question. The general population that's just now finding this stuff, they're getting these questions. They're going to be like, oh my gosh, who's asking these questions? Could you imagine if we started asking these questions 4 years ago, what they would be? Now I'm getting questions like, how important is flow rate for damage risk criterion? Where does the silencer industry go because of this technology? How do you compensate for drop on this type of reticle? What about scaling parameters? It's like you got a bunch of PhD candidates asking questions, guys. This is amazing. Do you know how excited this makes me? Do you know how amazing you people are? Do you know how amazing this is? You could not tell a silencer company 5 years ago that consumers were capable of this in any numbers and have them not laugh at you. Now look what we've done. You've proved them all wrong. Oh, PEW Science, this is amazing. Okay, this is getting out of hand. I'm saving the spreadsheet and closing it. I'm frothing at the mouth. I'm Alex Jones in this thing right now. Let's move into topic 3, a time of 57 minutes and 55 seconds. Interdimensional beings. How cool would it be to have Alex Jones into silencers? That would be amazing. Topic 3. Thank you for all the PEW Science support. This is a timely topic, isn't it? Thank you. Consumers, dealers, distributors, manufacturers. Thank you. It's been great. It's been a great year. The year's not even over yet. It's already so freaking awesome. I've had a lot of fun this year. This is crazy, dude. Did I tell you? Oh, shoot. Wait a minute. Did I talk to you guys after I shot that deer? Did I tell you about that last episode? Oh, yeah, I did, because I talked about my hunt. Okay, good. So you knew that happened. So that was like a highlight of my, but besides Thanksgiving being great, that was so awesome. Okay, I already told you about that. Cool. Oh, yeah, that's what I did. So this Thanksgiving holiday, after eating a ton of turkey, or maybe it was the next, I don't remember what I did, but I sent out a really large batch of welcome emails to all the new members. If you haven't gotten one yet, I'm a little bit behind, but I got a lot of them sent out, and I just want to let you guys know, if you receive one from me, I want you to know that I meant what I said in the email, and I am sincerely saying thank you for joining. It means a lot to me. Every little bit helps. It really does. The SilencerCo data and analysis that you see on the website today with this podcast, it is a direct result of having member contributions to keep the effort going. It would not happen without you contributing. I'm telling you, even if you're not a member of PEW Science and you just listen to the podcast, I just want you to tell you are the reason why this exists, which is it's really important to understand that. You make it happen, and it's that PEW Science just wouldn't exist without you. So that is what it is. And we've certainly published quite a few things this year already, and I think we're on pace to have a pretty big record amount of publications for the year. We're not done yet, which is pretty cool, and there's quite a lot of stuff to get to as well. It's really overwhelming if you think about it, and I try not to think about that because it'll make you cry. I did want to close this and say, sometimes I say big statements, and I think this is a pretty big statement, but I stand by it. I do not think suppressed small arm research would be at the place it is today without the support from PEW Science members and without folks spreading the word about all of this from listening to the podcast, reading the articles. I think being good stewards of information in general. So I think it's safe to say that bootstrapping the industry is working. Advancement, I think, is being directly driven by consumers now. I think the balance is shifting, and I think that's always been the goal. Sure, there's military things driving it too, especially with low back pressure. Fine. I concede that's true. But I think the balance is shifting, and it's always been the goal. My goal for this effort, one of the goals was to put the power in the back of the hands of the people. And I do believe that's working, slowly but surely. They have tried, the bad they people, they have tried to stop it, but you can't. You can't put the genie back in the bottle, I think. And that's really great because it kind of galvanizes it. And so thank you to, thanks to all of you. Please, you know what you should do? Go check out the data analysis for the SilencerCo Velos. It's actually pretty interesting. I think it's a great addition to the pedigree. I'm really honored to be able to get that done for you. And I tell you what, stay tuned for the 14.5 data on that too. I think it's pretty cool. Yeah, so that's coming too, okay? I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about that with you technically next week, okay? So tune in next week for the technical discussion about that article. I think it's going to be really cool. And so that'll be fun. That'll be really fun to look at because there's a lot to look at in that article. There's a lot to think about. We're turning up the competition to 11, aren't we? It's awesome. Okay. So go hunt some deer. All right. Stay safe out there. I'll talk with you folks again soon. All right.